It's going to be a nice week if you enjoy the fall weather, Lisa.
Gorgeous all week long. You're right. From that shot looking east, it's bright. From City Park looking west, it's clear. And we're right now at about 50 degrees here in town. So dog walking forecast here at about 9 o'clock, low to mid 50s, sunny and cool. But we're going to get into the 70s this afternoon. It's going to be a pretty warm fall day for us by 5 o'clock, hitting a high of about 75 in Denver, 65 in Evergreen, 72 in Parker, near 80 across parts of northeastern Colorado. So it is warm today and pretty dry. When you look at our 10-day forecast, warmer than average conditions continue to cover the western U.S. Now we'll see a chance for a few rain showers tomorrow. We'll take a closer look at that and when we will see some 60s on the Super 7 day here in just a minute.
And right now we do have still some quite a bit of traffic jamming, and it's all going down to the south side of town. We had a big crash right there at Arapahoe Road, about 15 vehicles involved. That's what Greenwood Village Police tell me. I counted 13. That's the southbound side here at Yosemite, and it really did a number on 225. That is where most of the heavy traffic remains for us heading south. Now from the travel times that way, you can see how badly southbound is still backed up, mainly around Broadway, University, Colorado Boulevard. It's starting to ease up past Hamden, getting down to the Denver Tech Center. So that's good news. The bad news is southbound 225 is still really packed in there coming down from Parker Road. That's going to take a while. So a lot of folks are trying to use the Cherry Creek Dam Road or use Havana to Hamden and then try to get to I-25. It's just going to take you some time through those traffic lights. Good news is all lanes are open northbound 225 up at I-70, but that traffic jam is still a bit of a mess for you here this morning and still a bit slow for us on some of those north end freeways. So we still have some some slow spots to get through here because of earlier problems. At least the drive to or from the airport looks just fine.
Well, we are following news this morning, and the White House says it is monitoring calls of troubling attacks in Ukraine overnight. At least 8 people were killed in missile strikes in the capital city of Kyiv. You can see the shelled out remains of vehicles. A security camera captured a missile hitting a pedestrian bridge here. The city of Zaporizhia is still recovering from an attack yesterday that killed 13 people. Russian President Vladimir Putin says the strikes were in retaliation for what he called terrorist actions, including the explosion on a key supply bridge connecting Russia to the Crimean Peninsula.
2 young children are without a father this morning after a driver slammed into a crowd, that is, outside a bar early Sunday morning. Number 7's Brandon Richard is back at the scene where it happened at Rock Rest Lodge in Golden. And Brandon, we're learning more about the man who was behind the wheel.
We are, and Nicole, we will share those details with you in just a second. But first, I want to show you where this hit and run happened at, in the parking lot here of the Rock Rest Lodge here in Golden. Now, deputies say this started as some sort of argument between 2 groups. They say at some point the suspect, Ruben Marquez, got into a pickup truck and then plowed into another group of people who were standing over here in this area, striking 8 of them. And instead of stopping, investigators say he continued down this road. Now, this morning, we learned that Marquez is actually on parole. He now faces murder charges, and that's on top of a long criminal history going back at least a decade here in Colorado, including 3 convictions for aggravated motor vehicle theft. Now, investigators say 7 people were hurt. 1 person died in this hit and run. The person who died has been identified as Adrian Ponce. He's identified by a woman who says that she is his sister-in-law. Now, she describes him as a loving, caring person, outgoing. She says he, earlier in the night, had attended a haunted house before arriving here at the bar and never came home.
My sister called me around 4 o'clock in the morning and said, "Ange, I have a gut feeling something's wrong. He's not home. He should have been home. He told me he would be home at 1. I can't get a hold of him."
Now, we know that there was another person inside that pickup truck, the man who actually owned that truck. He was also arrested and is facing charges for accessory. Now, we just checked, and neither of those men are listed on the court dockets just yet for this crash, but we will let you know when they do face a judge. We're live in Golden this morning. Brandon Richard, Denver 7.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. It's good to hear that they've caught the people involved.
Well, here's a question that we ask people every day. How are you? Very simple, but have you taken a minute to think about how you are doing And be reflective on this World Mental Health Day. If you feel you're having a mental health crisis, there is help available. You can now call 988 for the Mental Health Lifeline. Counselors are available 24/7, but if you're just wondering about your mental health, you can bring it up at your annual physical.
When you talk to your physical provider, mention mental health concerns. And these are usually anxiety or depression, difficulties eating, sleeping, having flashback, recurrent thoughts, and just anxiety in general.
Dr. Annette Gava there said that people may feel ashamed to mention it or admit it, that they're struggling with their mental health, but sharing that information is crucial.
We know the pandemic also led to more isolation and worsened depression symptoms for many teenagers. The state's latest Kids Count report, which looks at our children's well-being, finds young people in Colorado are dying at higher rates from drug overdoses and suicides. And when we see these reports, parents especially know that this is very scary. So I spoke to addiction counselor Blake Fleet. He says parents should not be afraid to ask their children if they're considering suicide.
It's important to ask that. It's important to know that you're not going to make it worse by doing that. Now, that doesn't mean you go into accusations or anything like that. You listen. You hear what they have to say.
It's also important to make your home a safe place by removing guns or pills that can be abused.
If we can make it as hard as possible and give people enough time as possible to get from I'm having the thought to I'm going to take this action, that's the goal.
That seems to be an important message, that just having the thought isn't necessarily the end. There is hope.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And it's not even that uncommon for people to have these thoughts.
Not uncommon. About 40% of Colorado high school students surveyed for this year's Kids Count report said that they had felt so sad or hopeless over a 2-week period they stopped doing their normal activities. That was up from 24% in 2013. And the percentage of teens reporting they had seriously considered suicide went up from 14.5% in 2013 to 17% last year. The state has made counseling available for free to young people. You can access those services at imattercolorado.org.
Today is Indigenous Peoples Day in Colorado, and you might have noticed some schools or businesses, even individuals, making land acknowledgments. On CU Boulder's website, it says the university acknowledges it is located on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and many other Native American nations. Winter Park's website says we recognize and honor these Native nations as the original stewards of the lands and waters where we recreate today.
Thinking about, after you've gained this knowledge, what impact you can have, how you can be an ambassador and an ally to Indigenous people.
Yeah, some groups are giving land back and others are paying taxes to Indigenous tribes. Well, we're now a week out from the next Broncos game. It's supposed to be a week of healing, but the question is, will Russell Wilson play?
Yeah, we learned over the weekend that Wilson played last Thursday's game with a partially torn lat muscle, which is near his upper back and shoulder of his throwing arm. He went to LA on Friday to get treatment. The normal recuperation time for this type of injury is about a month, but our Broncos insider Troy Rank is being told Wilson is expected to take the field when the Broncos play the Chargers next week in California.
Also, remember, you can watch the Broncos-Chargers game on Monday Night Football over on Denver 7. Monday, October 17th. Our pregame coverage starts at 5 p.m. Kickoff for the game is just after 6, and a complete postgame show right after.
Thought we were finished with COVID? Why doctors are watching Europe as we get closer to winter.
Higher heating bills are on the horizon. Why Excel says they have to hike prices once again.
I mean, they saved my life. It was simple as that.
And a Thornton man turns adversity into an inspiring example of making the most of your circumstances.